Hi, this instructional video is about parabolas. Parabolas, the Algebra 2 style. Let's recall from Algebra 1, however, that the quadratic function, let's look at the mother function. Y is equal to ax squared, without the b or the c. And since there is no b or c, that means we will have a parabola that opens upward, and the vertex, the y-intercept is the same as the vertex, and since there is no b, there is no shift, so the axial symmetry is right there at the y-axis. Now here's what you need to know for Algebra 2 parabola. Anytime we have a parabola, there will exist a focus. Let's randomly just call this point right here the focus. And let's just give it a number. Let's say this is coordinate 0 and 2. X is 0 and y is 2. Well, it says that there exists an equal distance from that focus to any point on the parabola, and that equal distance goes to where there exists a directrix, which is exactly the opposite side of the focus. So in this case, the directrix, the function is given as y is equal to the exact opposite of 2, so it's negative 2. And that distance from that focus to that parabola is same as the distance from that parabola to the directrix. It's not drawn to scale, of course. So that being said, this whole instructional video is based on this premise, and what we're trying to find is when we're given in some sort of an equation or a function, we're trying to look for the focus and the directrix. Okay? And to make that work, we need to understand the standard form of the parabola, which is given as x squared is equal to 4py. Now this is sort of like, if you kind of recall, y is equal to ax squared. So this one, the parabola can either go up or down. And the other standard form is y squared is equal to 4px. And this one, assuming the coefficient is positive, this one is going to open up to the right if it's positive. If it's negative, to the left. So in this case, the focus will be inside a parabola, will be given as coordinate 0 and p. That's going to be the focus, the coordinate y. And in this case, the focus is going to be given as coordinate p, and the y value is 0. Do you see the way that works? And so if the focus is p and 0 on the x-axis, then the directrix is going to be a negative value. And in this case, the directrix will also be a negative y value. Let me show you how that works, okay? Whew, that was a mouthful. So here we have an equation. Y squared equals 12x. So recall that, here, let me put this back. Here you go. Here's a standard form of the parabolas. X squared in a function of x, or a function of y. In this case, we have a function of y. Y squared equals 12x. Well, we just said the standard form is y squared equals 4px. But we know what this y squared is. It is 12x. So we substitute it in. It becomes 12x is equal to 4px. Now what we're trying to do is solve for p. And since it's in a function of y, the p is going to be given as the coordinate x and 0. The p is going to be at the x value. So to solve this, we're going to get rid of the 4 and x by dividing 4x to both sides of the equation. As a result, on the right side, the x and 4 simplify to become a p. And on the left side, the 4 reduces to 12 3 times, and x is simplified. So the p value is 3. But that's not the final solution yet. So how do you find the focus? Focus, again, is given as the value p and 0. And so this is going to be the coordinate 3 and 0. That is the focus. And then what is the directrix? The directrix is the opposite side of the axis, over here. And it's going to go through the x, so x equals -3. Let me draw you the graph, and you'll get a better idea what this is about. Once again, since it's a function of y, we're going to open to the right, because it's positive. See? 1, 2, 3. Here's the focus at 3 and 0. And the parabola has to have an equal distance to the focus, to that of the opposite side where the directrix is. And -1, 2, 3. So x is equal to -3. And that's the directrix. That's the focus. And that's how you graph it. Why don't you just try numbers 2 and 3 if you can? Okay. Now this one, unlike number 1, at the function of y, this is at the function of x, the traditional quadratic function. And so the standard form was x squared is equal to 4py. We're trying to make it look like this. There is something hanging next to the x squared, so you have to get rid of that 3 by dividing 3. So let me do that work over here. So we're going to divide the coefficient 3. So we have a standard form. X squared is equal to negative invisible coefficient 1/3 y. So we know what x third is. It's negative 1/3 y. What do we do with this? We substitute it into the standard form. X squared is equal to 4py. And we put that in here. Negative 1/3 y is equal to 4py. Now I want to solve for p. How do you get rid of the 4 and y? Well, I could divide 4 and y just like before here, but we have a fraction over here already, so let's take the reciprocal instead. 1/4y to both sides of the equation. Because when you do the distributive property or multiply, the 4y simplifies out the 4y here, leaving you with the p. And this one, the y simplifies this y, and 4 times 3 denominator, the whole thing becomes negative 1/12. However, this isn't a function of x, okay? But we have a negative, so it will look like this. Let's call this right here 0 and -1/12. So our parabola should look like this instead this time. And where's the directrix? On the opposite side, this way. And the value of the function is given as y is equal to positive 1/12. There's your directrix. And there's your focus. How about number 3? All right, now for number 3, I'm going to cover this up with a new sheet of paper. I'm running out of space. Now, you have to make this into some sort of a standard form. It's an equation with a 0 on the right. I see a y squared, and the standard form written as a function of y is y squared is equal to 4px. Remember the other one was x squared equals 4py? Yes, you gotta memorize this. You have to memorize this. Okay? So we're trying to look like this guy. To make that happen, we're going to add 4x to both sides of the equation. So we got 9y squared equals 4x. And you have to divide out the 9 first. So you get y squared is equal to 4/9x. It's not too pretty, but we know what y squared is now. Now we're going to take that standard form, and we're going to substitute the y squared with 4/9x equals 4px. Once again, it's in quotient form here, so let's take the reciprocal. You have to divide, multiply the reciprocal 1/4x to both sides. Because that cancels out the 4x, leaving you with a p. Now, something nice happens here. 4x leaves you with 1/9. So you just have to remember how to graph this. Since this isn't a function of y, it's going to open to the right side. Let's say this is 1/9 and 0. Parabola goes to the right. Directrix is on the exact opposite side. And the function is written as x is equal to negative 1/9. Focus. Directrix. Okay, so if you thought the first 3 questions were kind of spicy, let's Let's try numbers 4, 5, and 6. Here, number 4. And in fact, let me write the two standard forms of the parabola, depending on whether it opens up or down or left or right. For the one that opens up or down, it should look like this. X squared is equal to 4py. That's going to open up or down. Okay, let's write that down. Up, down. Just like in quadratic function back in Algebra 1. If you see an x squared, that's a quadratics. So that means if you have a y squared is equal to 4px, the standard form, if we use that, we're looking for a parabola that's going to go left or right. And if we have a parabola that's opening up and down, the focus is given as the x is 0 and y is the p. That could be negative or positive, by the way. And of course, if we have a parabola that opens left or right, then the p focus, okay, is given as x is a p, which could be positive or negative, and the y will be 0. And the directrix will be opposite of whatever that is going to be. Here, let's use that now. Let's go a little slower this time. In this case, we have x minus 1 over 8, y squared equals 0. It looks nothing like what we have here. So let's change this and let's move. In fact, since we have a negative coefficient 1/8, let's move this entire y term. So we're going to go plus 1 over 8 y squared to both sides of the equation. So when we end up is x is equal to 1 over 8 y squared. Now this is starting to look like a parabola that's supposed to go left or right. But there's a coefficient 1 over 8. And how do I get rid of that? Well, let's multiply the reciprocal of 1 over 8, which is 8. So the 1/8 simplifies out the coefficient 8, which leaves me with this y squared. And let's use the identity and move them around. And then 8 times x is 8x. So I know what y squared is. Y squared is 8x. So you're going to take that 8x and substitute it in to that standard form. So we end up getting 8x is equal to 4px. Now we're going to solve for p by dividing all the factors, well, by dividing 4x to both sides of the equation. So on the right side, we end up with a p. On the left side, we end up with a 2. X's cancel. 4 reduces the 8 2 times. And how do we put that in a coordinate form for the focus? Remember, it's written as p and the y is 0. And why is that? Because this is going to open right. 1, 2. There's the focus at 2 and 0. So the parabola opens to the right. And the directrix will be exactly opposite side of that. And the function will be given as x is equal to negative 2. Okay. And number 5. Once again, x squared minus 40y is equal to 0. We're going to add 40y to both sides of the equation. So we end up with x squared is equal to 40y. I know what an x squared is, so this time I'm going to take the x squared equals 4py standard form and substitute it in, so it becomes 40y is equal to 4py. I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by 4y to solve for p. So I end up getting p is equal to 10. And since I know that this one is going to open upward, the coordinate is going to be 0 and 10 right here. 0 and 10. That's the focus. The parabola will look like this. And where will the directrix be? On the exact opposite side. And the function will be given as y is equal to negative 10 this time. I hope you're seeing a pattern. Why don't you bring it home and do this one on your own totally? Alright. So you said, I'm going to move the 28y over by adding it to both sides. So I end up with x squared is equal to 28y. I know what x squared is, so I'm going to substitute it into this standard form. So you get 28y is equal to 4py. I'm going to solve for p. To find the coordinate of the focus, divide both sides by 4y. In this case, p becomes 7. And you just have to make sure to realize that this is a parabola that's going to open up down. And since it's positive, 0 and 7, the parabola is going to open up this way. That's the focus. The directrix is on the exact opposite side, with the function written as y is equal to -7. And there's your directrix. Wow! Never looked at parabolas like that before, huh? Enjoy!